Okay, so here we are. We're about ready to get started with activity 4.2, item number 1. And as you can see, it looks an awful lot like an object that we've already drawn. We've started a new project folder and file, and now I've opened up a new standard inch IPT. And I'm going to go ahead and sketch the front view of the object, that profile that you see there in the front view here as we go. So I'll start in the 3D modeling tab, sketch panel, start 2D sketch. Since I'm going to do the front view sketch, I will choose the XY plane. And then as I get ready to start here, I will use the line command up under the create panel. And I always, to avoid bad sloppy CAD, want to start my object locked at the origin, so I'll move over the origin, get a green dot, and I'll go ahead and click to establish the line. Now as I drag that line straight up, vertical, you'll see the little vertical constraint appear as I draw. I am going to just roughly sketch this profile out. And so I'll draw, I know this line needs to be vertical, and I'll draw a vertical line up. And then as I move over, you'll see a perpendicular constraint form. And as long as those constraints are there, they're applying those constraints as I click to my line. So I want a perpendicular line here. I want to go up with a vertical line, over, and you'll see that these parallel, vertical, and horizontal constraints continue to apply themselves. Now as I move down here, when I come in line and find that other corner that I've already drawn, you'll notice it puts a coincidence constraint. That makes these two lines equal in length, and that's something that I want in this case. Right? As I go to draw, you need to be aware of the constraints that it's applying, because it could cause you heartache if you don't actually want them. For example, if I didn't want this line vertical, I don't want it to apply a perpendicular constraint as I draw it. I do, so I don't worry about it right now. And I just go ahead and finish out this front profile of the object. Okay. Now, as I finish that sketch, I notice I need 8 dimensions at this point. Okay. So I right-click on and find my marking menu, and from my marking menu I choose General Dimension. And if you look at your object, you'll notice that this dimension here is 1.5, and I just go through and start applying my dimensions. My overall height is 2.5. Okay. My dimension here is 0.5. My overall width of my object is 4. This dimension here is 2. This dimension here is 1 inch. Now you'll notice my object went a little out of kilter here. I can fix that by dimensioning this line here to the appropriate length, or I can get out of the dimension command by hitting the escape key, and I can click and drag this line back into the shape that I want. Then I can just right click. My marking menu looks different here because I have a line selected. If that ever happens, just hit escape a few times and it will get you out of your command. Then right click, go to your marking menu and go to General Dimension. You can click and establish this dimension at 1/2 of an inch. And then the last thing that I need to know is how high in that cut goes, and that is 1/2 of an inch. Now I have a fully constrained sketch down in the bottom right hand corner of my screen. And I can go ahead and hit E to extrude, which will finish the sketch and enter me into the extrude command. The box, or the object, is 1.5 inches deep, so I go ahead and input 1.5 inches for my depth. Actually, I'm sorry, it's 2.5. Input 2.5 inches. Now, I need to create this tang or protrusion that comes out of the side of the object. To do so, all I need to do is create a rectangle on the face that it's on as a sketch. So I'll start to new 2D sketch, and I will create it on this face because that's the face that protrusion's coming out on. I'm going to project my geometry of this, but that geometry is not going to be used in my profile that I am creating. So I actually want to project that as construction geometry. So if you come up here in the Format panel at the top, and this top button that's two red lines at an angle is construction. That will allow me to project lines that do not create profiles that can be extruded. So I'll do that, and I'll click here to create that. Now you notice instead of solid yellow lines, it created dotted yellow lines, and that denotes construction geometry. Dotted lines are construction geometry and cannot be used in extrusions. Okay? So I'll take it back out of construction geometry mode, and I'll come over here and select my rectangle tool, and I'll just roughly draw in my rectangle that I want, and I'll go ahead and use the heads-up display and input my 1.5 by 0.25 inches, which is the dimensions of that rectangle. And now when I right-click to my marking menu and use general dimension, it'll tell me it needs 2 dimensions. It needs to know where this rectangle is located. Well, the dimensions that are given to me are from this top line to the top of my rectangle at 0.75. And then I'm also given the dimension over here. So I'm just going to use the dimensions that were given to me. And that dimension here is 0.5. And now I have a fully constrained sketch. Again, I can finish sketch, or I can just hit the E command to go directly to the extrude command. There was only one profile here that was drawn in real geometry, so it went ahead and selected it. Had I not used construction geometry to project this geometry, I would have had multiple profiles and would need to select it. This protrusion comes out 0.75 inches, so I change that to 0.75 and hit enter to finish projecting my geometry or extrusion, and I have item number 1 complete for 4.2.